Hello, welcome to this video. My name is Adam. I started an SMMA in 2019 and we made over $1 million. We made $1.3 million in revenue in roughly about 3 years. So in this video, what I'd really like to do is walk you through how I believe that was possible for me, the exact steps I took, and hopefully you can copy or model what I did if you want to start an SMMA. Now, an SMMA is a social media marketing agency. I started a slightly unconventional SMMA, one that was focused on creating content for clients and managing their social media pages. A lot of guys in the SMMA space talk about Facebook ads, no-brainer offers, and things like that. For me, that's not what we did. Our prices typically ranged from very, very low end for our first few clients. We had some people pay $150 a month, but that was rare. That was just because we were figuring things out at the start. On average, between $450 a month, and then on the high end, $3K per month. Okay, so those are the price points. Anyway, in this video, what I'd love to do is break all of this down for you. Now, a couple of things we need to get really, really clear on before we go any further is this was revenue. This was not profit, and I didn't personally take $1.3 million into my own bank account. Okay, this was revenue. Our profit margin was typically around 70%. We had periods when we were starting where myself and my business partner were more hands-on, so our profit margin was probably 90 or 95%. And then, of course, we had times when we were scaling very aggressively. And for example, in the final year before I sold my half to my business partner, I didn't really do anything, as in, yes, I would look at the business every day. Yes, I would speak to team members, but I didn't take any calls. I didn't do any sales calls. Everything was handled by team members, which means profit margin was definitely lower than 70%. So let's get into how I believe this was possible for me, and then how you can hopefully replicate something similar for yourself. And I think the frameworks we're going to look at today will be applicable to you if you're a beginner, just starting off, and you're not even dreaming of 1.3 million, but you're trying to get to your first 5 or 10,000 per month. But look, if you have a business already doing 10 or 20,000 a month, this might hopefully help you get to that next level, okay? Let's start off with a little bit about the story, because I didn't start an SMMA from nothing. What I mean by that is, I started my SMMA in 2019, okay? Late 2019. It was November when we got our first client. I had tried a bunch of other stuff before this point, okay? So before this point, if we go back in time, I don't know the exact year, but let's say 2014, roughly, I remember building a Twitter theme page. All right, if you know what a theme page is, it's essentially for me, it was a meme page, posting funny videos on Twitter. I wouldn't show my face, I wouldn't post myself, and people find that stuff funny. So you do it long enough and you do it consistently enough, you will get followers. So in and around this time, I built a page to 10K followers. This was on Twitter, and it took me about a year, okay? A full year. And what I want to highlight about that is I didn't make any money in that year, no money, but I still worked at it every day. I still had the willingness to post the content, do strategies like follow for follow, if you're familiar with that, where you just follow a bunch of people and hopefully some of them will follow you back, which worked well. Maybe 20 or 30% of people actually follow us back. So every day I would spend maybe an hour, maybe 2 hours, maybe sometimes 3-4 hours a day just working on the Twitter page. And I was in school. At the time I was like maybe 16 or so I've probably messed up on the date here, but who cares? And I kept doing it even though it wasn't getting me results. And that's the first thing. This is like the first thing I want to highlight. For you, if you're starting an SMMA, or really any online business, there's probably going to be a period where you don't see results. You're putting in the work. You're putting in work every single day, and you're not seeing results. And what I mean by results are, you don't have clients paying you, you're maybe not booking calls, and you're really not seeing tangible results, right? Now, what happens in this time is invisible progress. I actually got this from one of my students, Alvi. He was talking to a group of beginners in our program about how he has gotten past 10K a month, even though for 2 months he thought everything he was doing was a waste of time and he nearly gave up. right? If he gave up on day 58, he wouldn't now be making 10K per month. And he talked about this topic, invisible progress. You see, when Alvi worked for that 2-month period and didn't sign any clients, he barely took any sales calls, so he had a lack of results. He kept going. Now, of course, he had doubts. He had times where he wanted to give up, but he knew deep down, even at a young age, he started at 16, that invisible progress was in play, right? That what he was doing, he was building his character, he was building his discipline, being able to work every day without getting instant reward. And he was essentially building up all these muscles that eventually he would be able to flex. Eventually would turn into him getting a client. And that's what happened, okay? Now, I wanted to highlight this because this is what most people forget, or they don't want to acknowledge when they start anything for the first time, right? I'm sure you know somebody that started going to the gym and quit. Maybe you've done that yourself. It's the same thing, and it's the same with business. It's very rare you're going to start an SMMA and get immediate, instant progress in month 1. Now, in my program, where we coach people on how to do this, we have so many people that have done that, right? So it's a bit of a contradiction. We have so many students that have come in and gotten results in month 1, as in signed client, made money in month 1. But I want to give you the realistic view that for most people, right, most people, it will take them a little bit longer, okay? So you need to be okay with this. If you're not, then you need to work on your overall sense of discipline. You need to look at potentially detoxing from dopamine sources, maybe your phone, TikTok, if you're doing things like watching pornography, all of those. Because if you can't put in a couple of months of invisible progress, right, putting in the reps without seeing immediate results, you don't have a problem of being in the wrong business model or the wrong niche, or your offer isn't good enough. Those, of course, could influence it. Your biggest problem is this here. Maybe a lack of discipline, and you're just so focused on getting instant gratification because in your daily life, that is what you get. Then you need to work on that, okay? Now, the second thing, I want to further bridge my story. So I did Twitter for quite a bunch of years, I think 3 years in total, and it worked pretty good for me. I had over 3 million followers at my peak. Now, that wasn't one page, it was spread across probably like 10 different pages. I remember my biggest page was one called Shower Thoughts, and we had, I think 550 was the number, so 550,000 followers. Now, before I tell you the rest of the story with Twitter, this all ended very badly. Very badly. A few years into the journey, when I went to college, I spent a semester in Singapore, and I woke up one morning and all of my pages, bar I think one of them, which was a scary stories account, we would literally just post scary stories from Reddit, all of them were banned, like permanently suspended, no reason why. And this was obviously very heartbreaking because I thought I was really good at this thing, marketing, right? Which was building up an audience on social media. And how we would make money with Twitter was we would sell ads to e-commerce brands, or, you know, I tried a few drop shipping stores. We would just basically make money off the attention that we had garnered. And this led me to probably the biggest lesson in my business journey ever, okay? And that was the fact that you're never going to know it all. So I thought I knew it all, right? When I had my 3 million followers, over 500,000 on just one single page, making money by barely working. I probably worked 30 minutes a day because I had somebody that managed all of my accounts. His name was Zach. So Zach, I know you watch some of my content. Shout out to you. I didn't do much and I made good money. So whenever you don't do much and make good money, you have to always be looking at, is this going to last forever? Will this continue? And I naively thought Twitter would continue. Whereas really I was on rented property, right? Twitter owned my business. If Twitter shut down, my business shut down. And this is then what led me to really look into SMMA. And you're probably wondering why? Well, 2 reasons. One, the marketing, okay, the experience of growing pages on Twitter, amazing, right? It's going to give me some general knowledge about marketing. And number 2 was I wanted to get away from rented property. right? I wanted to get to a point where my business could work even if Instagram shut down, if LinkedIn shut down, if Upwork shut down, if any of the platforms we used to get clients, build our team and make money shut down, that I would be okay. So that's exactly what happened when I got into the SMMA space. You see, getting clients, we never focused on just one thing. We got clients on Instagram, we got clients on LinkedIn, we got them through email. We did a bunch of stuff. And the reason we did this was that if one of these failed, for example, if Instagram, our page on Instagram got banned, we would have LinkedIn, we would have email. And to go even deeper on this, with Instagram, we didn't have just one page. So when we had an Instagram page that was reaching out to business owners, essentially trying to get clients for the marketing agency, we didn't just have one page. All right. So, at one point, I think we had 10 of these, probably more actually, probably more. I need to correct myself on that, but 10 minimum, which meant that if one Instagram page got knocked off, well, we actually had more. We had like 9 more, right? So this was me essentially learning this lesson of when you're on rented property, you need to get your own property, or you need to have all these backup plans so that this doesn't happen again. This is a lesson that you need to use when you are trying to start anything online. You need to have security in the fact that all of your revenue doesn't just come from one place. Okay? Now, at this point, starting SMMA, I didn't see results straight away. Okay, so it's hard to say numbers wise how long it took me to get my first client, but I know it was at least a couple of months, So we're going to put down, let's say 2 months minimum. Now, the thing is, and you might have heard me if you've watched any of my content before, we went from 0 to 10K a month, right? That's over $10,000 a month in revenue in 45 days. Which is kind of crazy. Like, it is kind of crazy because we have students in my program that think that's going to happen for them, and most likely it won't. We've had students get to 10K a month in about 4 months, but doing it in 45 days is quite rare, okay? And the thing was, I was just figuring things out. Like, I didn't have some master plan strategy. Like, one of our first client paid $1,200 a month. And as I mentioned before, we had clients paying, like one I remember paid about $150 a month in that first 45-day period. So I had no idea what I was doing. I was just, any business that would pay me money, I'd be like, come on board. Like, you're welcome, pay us money, let's get things going. Okay? So now, if we go back to the earlier example of Alvi, the student that taught me about invisible progress, in that first 2 months where I didn't get results, I could have quit, right? I could have said, this isn't for me. I could have said that I'm an introvert, so this whole getting on calls and selling my services isn't comfortable, so I'm not going to do it, which is the case for me. But I did it, right? And I did it because what is the other option? This is a mindset you need to have. What is the other option? Truly. Let's say you're running a marathon, right? You enter a marathon and 30 kilometers in, you've got over 10 kilometers left, you've got a stitch, or your ankle is kind of sore, or your calf is cramping up. Yes, you have an option, which is you could quit. But really, like, what is your one true option? Your one true option is to keep going. It's to stick to your word, push to your goal, and make it happen. And that sounds cliche, but that's exactly the mindset I had in those 2 months, or whatever it was, 2-3 months, where I didn't get clients. It's the same mindset Alvi had that's now at 10K a month. And if you don't have it, you'll probably have 2 months of potentially no results, and then you'll quit. And I don't want you to quit. Again, this video is to show you how I made money so that you can hopefully make money as well. So, when you start SMMA, I don't want you to think about, I need to write over here. I don't want you to think about this word here. Perfect, or the second one, best. I see it all the time. You want the best and the most perfect niche. You want the best and perfect offer. You want the perfect packages and prices to charge. These things don't exist. They don't exist. They exist in your mind. They don't exist in reality. There's always going to be a better niche. There's always going to be a better offer, a better package, better price you could charge, a better strategy, a better sales call script, a better outreach message, a better everything. You need to get that whole idea out of your head. You see, when I started, as I mentioned, right? First client, 1,200 a month. Other clients, 150 a month. That's not perfect. If I did things perfectly, they all would have paid the same amount, and I wouldn't have been figuring anything out. But you see, that's the thing. When you're starting this type of business, it's all about figuring things out. One foot in front of the other, step by step, figuring out what's going to work best for you. What worked for me isn't guaranteed to work for you. What worked for Alvi right here isn't guaranteed to work for you. And what works for you is not guaranteed to work for me or for Alvi. You have to find your own path within this. So I can give you the path that I took. I can give you my niche, my offer, my prices, my packages, give you everything that I've done in my business, and you will replicate and change certain parts to figure out what works best for you. Okay? And I really need to drill that in. That point is so important. So you're probably wondering, okay, Adam, you went from 0 to 10K a month, 45 days. Well, what did you actually do in that time? Like, how did you get to 10K a month? Well, some of the things I did was I looked at my network. There was this one client that I had done some freelance work with. I think they paid me maybe $100 for some graphics. And that didn't go anywhere. We created the graphics, delivered, and I don't think they ever used them. And that was it. End of story, end of the relationship. Now, later on, when I was starting the agency, because I did some freelance work beforehand just to kind of get some experience, kind of learn how to create content for social media, because it had been a few years since I had done the Twitter work that I mentioned before. So when I started then the SMMA, because I started this with a business partner, I looked at the network and I looked at, okay, well, who have I maybe done some stuff with before? And I thought of them. And we figured out they were going to this event called Veg Fest in London, and we went. Yeah, we booked a ticket. We got on a flight from Ireland to London, and we went there. We met them at the event. You know, we shook hands, and it was very casual. Just, how are you doing? You remember us? Fantastic. Super short. Now, like a week later, we closed them. Right? So what happened here was we met them in person. There was already a previous relationship up because they were in my network. So network, then we met them, and then we closed them, and this was through a call. So like after the event, we reached out to them again and pitched them again, but this time they were more interested because we'd built up that trust in person. Now, that was client number one. This actually led us to our first 3 clients. You see, this business that we signed, the first one, they had 3 business partners, okay? And one of them, it was a woman, she had 2 other businesses she was a part of. She had 2 other businesses she was a part of that then we worked with. So one was her personal page, okay? And then one was a CBD company. So we had essentially gotten 3 clients from one client, and they all paid in and around 1,200 a month. So we're up to around 3K per month from one connection. So that was using my network. Then I realized I don't have many other people in my network. There's not many other people I've done work with that would use my services, okay? So that's when I had to look at other places. So where did I look? Instagram was my big one. Bit of LinkedIn and cold email. These were the 3 methods, okay? I'm going to put this here. These are 3 methods that I decided to use to get clients. Now, most came through Instagram, probably 80%, but 20% came from these here. Let's just say 10 each. So I used these because my network was small. It got me this massive win, which was kind of lucky, but I knew it wasn't going to get me all of my next clients. And I do see this as a mistake for a lot of people. I know a lot of guys that have marketing agencies in Ireland specifically. They get clients through their network and they just rely on that forever. And that's fine if you're okay with that. But if you're trying to scale fast, it's normally not going to work, because you're relying on something that is very small and finite. If I go to Instagram, LinkedIn, and I start sending emails, I can essentially hit hundreds of people a week. Hundreds a week. If I'm hitting hundreds a week, I've got tons and tons of opportunity. And now I'm actually indirectly growing my network, Because if I cold email a business owner, have a call with them, and they decide that we're not a good fit and we don't work together, well, what's to say that they don't refer a client to me? What's to say that they won't come back in 6 months and actually use my service? So this is doing two things. This outreach is getting me a bigger network for later on that I can tap into, and it's getting me calls with business owners where I can pitch directly my services. Simple stuff. A lot of people don't do it because it's kind of scary. It can feel a bit awkward. You're going to face rejection, and it's boring. It's not going to give you instant gratification. You're not going to feel 100% satisfied sending messages on Instagram to business owners when most of them ghost you, some tell you to fuck off, and it's just uncomfortable, right? But this is how we got to our first 10K per month. I was doing this aggressively. Now, if we want to go deeper on the strategy, let's take Instagram, since that was 80%. I did a lot of voice messaging. Why? Not many people did voice messaging. I went onto YouTube, I watched quite a lot of videos, like you're probably doing, about SMMA, how to get clients, how to do outreach, what to say, what not to say, all of that. And one thing I noticed was nobody really talked about voice messaging. Everybody was talking about text messages, cold calls, cold emails. Nobody was doing voice drops, right? So this is what I did. I did this quite aggressively, and we did this on multiple pages. Okay, so I had my page, right, which was like just my personal, Adam Walsh. I had a page which was called Adam is Healthy. You can still find it. It's still on Instagram. And there was probably some other pages. I can't fully remember, but I know we used more than one. And this was how I could hit, instead of hundreds a week, I was actually most likely hitting hundreds a day with voice notes, and we did some text as well. Now, what you're probably understanding from this right here is this was a lot of hard work. Like it was hard work. It wasn't particularly motivating work. It's not the most enjoyable. It's awkward, and again, you're facing rejection, and that can be really uncomfortable, okay? This was hard work. Now, this got me to that 10K per month mark. But to get to, let's say, beyond, right, and to when we got to 50K per month, that really didn't come from hard work. I worked way less at 50K per month versus 10K per month. At 10K per month, God knows how many hours I was working, like, I don't know, 60 hours a week, I would say. More, I don't know. I worked every day. I worked 7 days. I did outreach every day. I took sales calls. Every day that I had calls, I would just work all the time because I was just so focused on this big goal right here, 10K per month. Getting to 50K per month, I knew that the strategy that got me to here wasn't going to get me to here, right? And that's something you're going to notice on your journey. What got you to X won't always get you to Y. So I knew I had to change what I was doing. This is when I learned about VAs, virtual assistants, also known as appointment setters, just depending on your terminology. So I thought, okay, so VAs are essentially somebody that I will pay maybe $3 to $4 per hour to, typically in the Philippines, that will do admin work. Sending messages on Instagram, that's admin work. Problem one, I don't want them to send voice messages because then it won't sound like me and they might not have fluent English, and there's a ton of problems with that. So I'm going to have to bite the bullet and do another hard thing, which is learning how to do text outreach via Instagram. Right, so I need to test this, and I know it's more competitive. I know there's more people doing it, but I need to test this, get it to work, and then when I get it to work, I'm going to give it to one of these people. That's what I did. So I tested messages on Instagram, and until I got one to work, I did it all myself every day. Tweaking messages, different follow-ups, sending a case study, not sending a case study, you name it. We got to this point, had a process that worked, and when I say I had a process that worked, it just, if I sent 100, if I booked a call, I was like, cool, that's a win. Let me run this up, right? Let me scale this with a VA or multiple VAs, okay? So eventually we had 3 VAs, not working full-time, probably 4 hours a day each. So you do the maths, that's 12 hours a day, and all they would do was send messages. All right, that's literally all they would do, send messages. We then had it set up. I think this was really smart. We had a sheet, a Google sheet that connected to ActiveCampaign, which is an email sender. And what we would do is when the VA would message a business owner and the business owner would say, yes, I'm interested, the VA would essentially take the email of the business owner. They'd ask them, say, cool, can I send you a case study of what we do? Get the email, then put the email on a Google sheet, and then that would automate over to ActiveCampaign and send them an email saying, hey, we spoke on Instagram, here's your case study. And this then would actually follow up with them automatically about like 6 to 7 times, all automated over the course of probably 4 or 5 weeks. Every like 2 to 3 days, we'd send them a new email. And if they booked a call or if they started replying to us, we would pause the automation and they wouldn't get spammed. So this was the next step of the journey, was moving from hard work to smart work. So that's how we got clients using smart work. Then when it came to the team, like actually, you know, how do we deliver the service to our clients? How do we get them good results? How do we make sure they stay? That's when we really hired a team. You see, at 10K a month, it was this, me, business partner, and like maybe 2 graphic designers who would create content. So basically this is how it worked. Me and my business partner would come up with content ideas for each client, send it to our 2 graphic designers. They would make the graphics, send it back to us. We would recommend any changes. They'd make some changes, send it back to us. And then we would post it to the social media for the client and do all the other little small details, the intricacies of social media management. And that was the team, the process. Again, as mentioned, this was probably like 90% profit margin, super profitable, but we did a lot of work. So going then to 50K per month, we added team members. We added, for example, client managers. So instead of communicating with clients ourselves, instead of taking calls with clients ourselves, we had somebody else do that. We hired quite a few female client managers. We had 1 male client manager and didn't work out very well. So we always stuck with female client managers, mostly from South Africa, and they ran the show. Their job, essentially, it was kind of like we were building a leadership structure. So it was me here, business partner here, okay, all right. Then underneath us, eventually we had a senior client manager. So essentially 1 person that would report back to us and 1 person we would speak to. And then this senior client manager was in charge of client manager 1, client manager 2, and we had like 4 at our peak, but normally it was 3. So then these client managers would have under them designers, video editors, virtual assistants, and other people that would help them, because the client manager, what we wanted their role to be was speak to the client and manage the project. When you have a client paying for 30 Instagram posts, you need to work with the graphic designer and the video editor to get those 30 pieces done. Then when they're done, you're going to go and post them on social media. So the client manager's job was essentially speak to the client, manage the project, aka get all the content made, and then deliver it, post it to social media, update the client on the results, and voila. So this is how the team dramatically changed. And I'm sure if we were to go to 100K a month or 200K a month, this structure would probably have to change. And that is a universal law of business. Change. What got you from X is not going to get you to Y or to Z. You most likely will have to change things. Okay. So what I want you to take away from this, because we've talked about a lot in this video, we've looked at what my team structure was like. We looked at the difference of the hard work I did to get to 10K per month versus the smart work of getting to 50K per month. We looked at how I got my first clients through my network, through cold outreach methods, mainly Instagram. We've looked at a lot here. We've looked at not focusing on being perfect and being best, but figuring everything out as you go. We looked at my student Alvi and the kind of mindset tactics that got him through a dry spell of 2 months to then get really fucking good results and, you know, make 6 figures a year. He's 19 now. He started at 16, 17. Just insane. We looked at the importance of not being on rented property. So when you have a business that's reliant on just one thing, it's very likely to break. You want to make sure that you've got clients coming in from multiple sources And if there's one place that you're relying on, you need to fix that. Ideally now, because you might have the issue I had with my Twitter story I told you about, where I had a thing that worked, that made me some money, and then it all went away in one day. No warning, no real explanation, and I couldn't get my pages back. So that is how we made 1.3 million with my SMMA. Now, of course, there's some details we've not gone into here. This would turn into a 5-hour training, but I hope you got some value from this, and I hope you can take some of the mindset principles from this into your journey of building a business. If you want more help, there is a link in the description of the video. You can book a free call with me or one of my team members. We can have a chat and we can see if the mentoring we offer is a good fit for you. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't, but you may as well book the call and have a chat. Hope you enjoyed. Have a good rest of your day.